Hello, everyone. I am Becky Liggero, and you are watching the CoinGeek Roundtable. I am so excited to be here, and I hope you are too. Today, we're going to be talking about Internet of Things, our IoT and blockchain, and everything surrounding these two topics. Please do not be shy to ask questions, to make comments. We're going to be answering your questions as we go through the discussion today. Just put them in the chat box. And before I welcome my three fabulous guests here for the show, just have a look at this ad and we will be right back. Hello, everyone. So before we get started, I just have to remind you to please subscribe to the CoinGeek channel, hit the like button, and make sure you turn on the notification bells so you do not miss a future episode. Okay, so here we go into the meat of what we're going to discuss today. But first of all, I want to introduce you to my fabulous guests. I have Sebastian Grabowski of Orange Business, Stephan Nilsson of UNISOT, and Alessio Pagani of nChain. Welcome, boys. Welcome, guests. Welcome, viewers, everybody. Yes. So first of all, before we get started, I want for the three of you to please introduce yourself and explain how your organization is involved with IoT and blockchain. So I'm going to start with you, Sebastian.
How my organization is involved in the blockchain? Maybe I start from myself. In fact, I'm working in Orange Business Europe, technical and technology consulting. I'm responsible for IoT, industrial IoT consultancy around architecture. It means that I try to advise how to, in the best way, implement, launch IoT, industrial IoT, and sometimes as well blockchain. My organization, as you know, Orange is the global big brand, which is doing a lot with more or less the fundamental need for IoT means connectivity, because connectivity drives for sure a lot of different nice solutions that we can admire, we can touch, we can even use. And on top of IoT as well, there is a blockchain, completely new world for all of us, maybe not so old, however, for this very structured, very big company, blockchain, I think, is still quite new. There are a lot of different projects. I know many from France. Some of my friends as well are managing different bodies in France. France currently as well is building the national blockchain. And for me, experience with blockchain started in Poland when I started to create as well some kind of blockchain IoT solution around control access. However, afterwards, I had as well the chance to share with all of you how it worked. And I'm giving the floor to my colleagues, Stephan and Alessio.
Amazing. Stephan, please.
Yeah, so I'm Stephan Nilsson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of UNISOT, and we are building a supply chain solutions, supply chain traceability and supply chain sustainability. And what you need in supply chain is to get data and securely share data, and we get data from IoT devices there. So that's a connection that I'm here for. So we are also working with partners who are experts in IoT devices and working together with them to connect it into the global supply chain network and the blockchain.
Very good.
And sorry guys, one more comment just to make our roundtable but more attractive. Normally I live in Poland, however, today I'm speaking directly from London, by the way. We have quite a nice workshop that's I'm sending all of hacks directly from London. Slow, by the way, district that. Guys.
Wonderful. Alessio, who I know is in London too. Go ahead.
I am in London too. Yeah, so my name is Alessio Pagani. I am Research Director at nChain, and I'm also an Industrial Fellow at the University of Bath. At nChain, we are around 250 people, and in the R&D team where I work, we are around 20 people. This includes researchers and code prototypers. And our mission is to build the knowledge and the tools for the Web3. So we do research, we try to improve the state of the art to bring Web3 to reality. And of course, one of the components of Web3 is IoT, so enabling all those IoT devices to be able to connect and interact. So our job is to try to define what will happen in the next 5 or 10 years, study that, and hope that those guys like Stephan and Sebastian will be attracted by these new technologies and adopt them in their companies.
Brilliant. And thank you so much to our viewers already for sending through some questions, comments, hellos, all of that. We love that. I'm also here in London, so we have 3 Londoners on the call. Stephan, hello over the Nordics.
Back in the cold, snowy Norway.
Cold snow in Norway. Right. Okay. For the next about 55 minutes or so, we're going to be discussing all sorts of topics around IoT and blockchain. And the first thing I wanted to do, guys, though, was for our audience here to set the stage for just really how huge and how big this world of IoT is, with maybe some numbers and statistics, which I know we all love. Alessio, I'm going to start with you on this one, because we've had a few discussions in the past about just how large this opportunity is. So tell us what we should be seeing here in IoT devices in the next 5 years, 10 years.
It's a market that is exploding. Everyone has IoT devices at the moment, and with IoT devices we mean everything. So you can think about your smartwatch, your smartphone, but also all the IoT devices installed now in cars, buildings, those stuff that build the smart cities, like Stephan is doing for the supply chain. All those IoT devices are expanding, and this is a market that is exploding. I was reading some statistics, and we expect by 2025 to have between 30 and 40 billion IoT devices connected. And this is the number is doubling like almost every 2 years. So this is something that we cannot ignore. And this is a market that we need to move to Web3. So yeah, it's expanding, and it's in a lot of sectors: healthcare, manufacturing, cars.
Alessio, in addition to that, if I can interfere a little bit here now, because in general we are speaking about the devices. However, we have to remember that in each more or less intelligent, even the car is, that is the device. However, in each very simple stuff, you have some intelligent module inside with SIM cards, for instance. And this small thing, it could be as well treated as a device. On the other hand, especially during the pandemic, a lot of systems appear on the market, the case of the smart cities as well. And now we are calling those smart devices like a smart system to manage remotely, I don't know, water, energy, gas, etc. And now we are calling it a system, not smart devices. It means that I think that is very cold estimation, those 30, 50 billions. I think that it's even hard to estimate how much is currently and how much gonna be in the very soon future. Billions, trillions,
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. It's so huge. And this also means quite a few transactions on the blockchain once we connect blockchain to all of this, which we all love. We love that. The miners love that too with their fees. So Sebastian, you've already said to us that you are involved with smart cities and IoT devices and on how all of this works. So I wanted you to set the stage for what's going on right now. And also Brandon has a question here: is blockchain going to be the main plumbing for IoT? I know you're recently introduced into the blockchain world, so let us know how blockchain ties into what you are doing with smart cities.
I think that blockchain, it is not even, I love it, my plumbing for IoT. I'm not even sure it is the plumbing for IoT in the moment we speak as well about IPv6. However, what is important around blockchain, because blockchain has much more use cases than only IoT. if you would like to use this kind of immutability, those key features of the blockchain, as immutability is security, decentralization, fully decentralized model, and much more, we are creating completely new tool to manage complexity of the city. On the one hand, it could be for sure IoT smart devices, because blockchain giving us as well a little bit better security to manage those different devices. On the other hand, giving us completely new tool to monitor, to create transactions. It means that when we have a smart contract, which consists of this very complicated relation between inhabitants, government, companies, private business, small business, etc., it means that all of those transactions we can put inside the smart contract, and this smart contract will take care about the relation. And we can use this as an element of bunch of different applications, That's why I treat blockchain as a big facilitator around the city, emerging technology to guarantee better level of security. And what I love, really, it is this, it's not controlled by anybody. Everything is transparent, and we can easily create an access to blockchain. It means that it's accessible for everybody in the city. It means that creating as well the democracy. That is, beautiful of the blockchain in the city. That's, I think I answered. If not, just correct me. I hope that I hit the Brandon. But for sure as well, that is the one of the biggest problem with smart devices in the city. There is security. We don't know what we are managing from time to time. It's very easy to access, to hack. For instance, intelligent lamp, we can just access it and just after create blackout if the system is not solid and secure. That's why we have to remember about it. However, I think that this case, it could be another roundtable to explore it, because it's quite topic to discuss.
And I think something that is very, very interesting here with combining blockchain and IoT, and combining blockchain with IPv6 gives us a lot of very interesting things here, as you said, in security, in integrity of data and security of data. So by combining blockchain and IPv6 with IoT devices, we can now start monetizing information, which is a complete new area where IoT devices actually can be have economics, and you have the economic incentive to actually put IoT devices on even more places. So that will even drive on the estimate that we have today by an economic incentive. So I think, as you said as well, that it's going to be even more IoT devices than these numbers we heard before.
Stephan,
yes,
I will share with you, because I think quite important, especially when speaking about the city. When I started my journey with my PhD, in fact, my PhD started from the grant of open government. I remember all of my discussion with my master, in those time, Professor Murashkiewicz, that he believed that IPv6 can give to anybody this unique ID, because IP4 is not enough addresses. That IPv6, it was this kind of best golden tool to give to anybody this ID. When we just combining blockchain, seed, and IPv6, we are creating completely new brand to innovate, to create. Yeah.
Maybe I can add.
That's right. Yes, please go, Alessio.
We are very active in this area, and we try to combine IPv6 with IoT and blockchain. And one of the important things when you use IPv6 is that, as Stephan and Sebastian already said, it allows to have an ID for each device. And this means identity. So have IoT devices that have an identity, and then they can communicate peer-to-peer. So they don't need a central server, but they can directly communicate. So we can have a car communicating with another car peer-to-peer, removing the third party. Not only communication, when you add blockchain, you also have payments. And now IoT devices can send micropayments, so you can have a car going parking, and when they have to pay for the park meter, it's just a peer-to-peer transaction on blockchain between two devices. which is very exciting. Maybe also a bit scary, thinking robots paying. Because what happens at the moment is that you would need like, I don't know, a Visa or a MasterCard to pay, or a bank account. You cannot give a bank account to an IoT device, but you can have a wallet on blockchain, and this enables this exchange of communication and payment peer-to-peer.
So basically what you guys have done is given an overview about what we're going to talk about for the next 45 minutes. You guys are
now we will speak about our personal experience. We fulfill all of topics that we have prepared, unfortunately.
Like they're in the notes, out the window. No, I'm just kidding. We will actually, but for real, for the audience here, we will be diving a bit deeper into the topics that the guest just covered. So IPv6, economic incentives, and privacy, all sorts of things like this coming up. And so get your questions in mind. And Sebastian, yes, go.
Rebecca, yes, I think that I can even enhance the discussion. I remember all of my discussion as with one other person I like. It is my friend, Shimon, who created some nice topics around, by the way, IoT and blockchain some years ago. I think that we discussed a lot about how to make the communication transport, like, cars, parking, how to create it very, in fact, better and much more convenient for people just to live without any app, without any additional equipment in your car, without any system. And I remember it was 2 years ago, something like that, we figured out that let's put small OBD hardware module and attach it to the car, CAN bus, just after put it in the wallet, and this kind of, unique recognition through IPv6. But I think wallet was enough in this time. Just after, try to generate this kind of NFE digital key, and don't think, and you can forget about any applications, about any, those hard stuff that you can just plug your, drop your number, etc. Because when you stop the car, immediately after the message we're going to send, the car is stopped in the certain area, try to billing it, and charge the car. When I just switch on the car, automatically stop. It means that everything could happen behind of me. I don't have to take care about it. Monthly or daily, I can get the invoice, where I was, what I've done, and how much I should pay. And exactly blockchain and IoT gives this possibility to manage it. Normally, it's not feasible.
Stephan, were you wanting to say something?
Yeah, that comes up a very important question here as well, and that's privacy. That and that's actually a thing that blockchain can help with as well, and IPv6, that we can have privacy. We can actually decide what information we want to share. Do I actually want to share where I'm driving or where my car is driving? But we can have full control of that by having a self-sovereign identity wallet connected to all of this, so that I decide what information is shared and not.
Amazing. Again, the topic we're going to get to in a little bit. But actually, this is the question I wanted to ask you, and also I can see that Brandon Ward here has a question for you specifically, Stephan, and this is in regards to supply chain. I know that you have a puck kind of solution. I know that's the word that you used to describe it when we talked about this earlier. Talk to me about how UNISOT specifically is using IoT and exploring IoT in the supply chain space.
Yeah, so to the question here for Brandon, that there is a lot of initiatives of connecting different blockchains to supply chains. But the problem I see there is that most companies are trying to use private blockchains, which I say is not a blockchain, it's just a replicated database. Or they are trying to build their own local blockchain. But that's where I see the problem is, and as we have seen with IBM's TradeLens was closed down in December. They have been trying with a private blockchain for 5 or 6 years, and it just proved that does not work. So that's the difference here, that you, to connect supply chain, you need to use a public blockchain that is global for everybody, so that we have this global data layer. And So that's what we are working with, and then we are also working with partner companies who have very interesting technologies for IoT devices. We are still a little bit struggling with the capacity of IoT devices. We are still, there is a lot of development going on. There is a million different type of IoT devices. It's really interesting area to try to follow. It's just exploding as well, a different kind of IoT devices that you can use in hot environments, in cold environments, in wet environments, and all of that. But still, there is a problem with capacity, both in energy. So there must be a battery or some kind of energy source in these IoT devices, and they also must have a certain compute capacity that we are still on the edge at the moment on how much they can do, and if these IoT devices actually can talk directly to the blockchain and so on. But we are coming into that area now, and it's really interesting to work with partners who have these different technologies.
In addition, what you already, Stephan, what you said, especially about this power problem with batteries, because in supply chain, from time to time, it's really hard to find the power to recharge or to put it plug and that's it. However, what is important, there is in fact the direct knowledge from my business. That's why all of big bodies around telecoms and organizations associated with these bodies, they created those narrowband protocols. Then through different kind of mobile network, like I don't know, 2G, not 2G, maybe 4G, LTE, and now 5G will be maintained. There are those narrow protocols like CAT-M or NB-IoT. It means that you have some dedicated possibilities to manage remotely battery. It means that the system will change completely, because now the object will speak with the system. Not system will ask, what about you? Can you give me some data? No. The sensor will say, okay, now I'm ready to send you some piece of the data. It's enough or not. This, I think, changed a little bit. However, the problem of the market is that majority of the companies that are still using 2G network, which is not ready to provide the scale of different devices. And that is one blocking point. However, now I see that many countries in Europe and worldwide, they have a problem with licenses, frequencies. That's why they are just starting a little bit, decrease the coverage of 2G. They are closing 3G as well, and they are just moving those resources to 4 and 5G. It means that in a moment, a lot of those advanced solutions and sensors will use those narrowband protocols just to keep this, the system live.
Alessio, I'm seeing you smiling there when we brought up 2G. What, do you have any comments to add?
Because at nChain, we are already thinking about 6G. But you see, in industry, they are at 2G.
But I think, Alessio, now we should just get this mature 5G, because as you know, this 5G as well is currently, I can call this growing. And on the other hand, there are not really big, tangible business use cases to implement it. So many operators worldwide, they are considering whether to implement it, launch it or not, because nobody will just launch 5G completely with private, with 5G core network if there is no tangible use case behind of it. That's why probably I think the world is still waiting for those use cases, like maybe autonomous cars or any other service, or artificial intelligence in the cities. Maybe those will trigger 5G completely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. See, now 1,000,000%. And I'm actually smiling now because our producer for the show here had 5G in the title. I said, no, we're not going to be talking about 5G. And here we go. Sorry, Ace. Anyway, I do see a question here from Alex Vidal. How can blockchain help to embrace the security and privacy of IoT devices and data? I know we already mentioned IPv6 a little bit here, but to answer Alex's question specifically, who wants to start with that? I'm going to start with You, Alessio, you look ready to answer
that. Because if not, I will grab all of Roundtable. So you cannot allow to do it. Alessio, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So usually we define security using the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And blockchain already covers by default availability and integrity of data because it's an immutable ledger and transparent ledger. Now the other problem is confidentiality. And that it's a bit more complicated, but there are some cryptographic techniques that allow you to store data, encrypting it or storing digital fingerprints so that you can also preserve the confidentiality of data. And then talking about privacy, we have some techniques. You probably all heard of Merkle trees or zero knowledge proofs. I'm not going to discuss what they are because they are very technical and I would need the rest of the hour for that. But those are techniques that allow you to share only a portion of the data or some information about those data without revealing anything. So the classical example is I can enter a pub or go through passport control by proving I'm over 18 without showing you anything. I don't have to give you my passport. I don't have to give you my driving license. I can prove you using a proof on chain that I'm over 18. You don't need to know my age, my exact age. I can prove I'm over 18. So this is the most extreme example that allows you to preserve the privacy of data. So when we are talking about IoT devices, we are storing a lot of data, gigabytes of data, probably more. So first of all, we need a blockchain that allows for that. But again, we don't need to store everything on chain. So as I said, we can store fingerprints or we can store Merkle proof. So you can have a lot of data, but you only store a proof for those data, and then you can prove much more data, guaranteeing the confidentiality and privacy of those data. So those are all tricks that we use to guarantee the privacy and security. Another way, this is not about data, but it's about IoT devices, is using digital certificates on chain. This way you can prove that an IoT device is who it's saying it is. There are some techniques to link also IPv6 addresses with Bitcoin addresses. And in this case, you can prove that the IoT device you are talking to is the same you are sending the payment. So you remove the man in the middle, you remove possible attacks. There's no risk that I'm talking to you, but I'm sending the payment to someone else, because this is now peer-to-peer. And when I'm communicating with an IoT device, there's no blockchain involved. It's just peer-to-peer, so this is very secure. But then when I want to store a payment or record a payment or store a data, then I interact with the blockchain, and there are some techniques that use digital signatures that use a lot of tricks to store those data on chain. I don't know if I answered the question. I hope I was.
In my opinion, yes. Especially even I see as well, we have somebody from Philippines. Hello, Robert. I think yes.
Anything
what
else
I can add,
Stephan?
Alessio, if I can, because you just gave very wide explanation. I fully agree what you already said. But what is important, and there is very simple explanation how we implemented some times ago. This is kind of privacy, and when you would like to organize some transaction in IoT world, you can use the blockchain as the source of the right data, for instance. And the case I've done in Poland, there is the control access. When you would like to manage device, this device is onboarded to the blockchain, and this kind of triangle is checked during the interaction with the device. It means that you are pressing the button on the remote controller, and your gate or your door is open, And this relation between IoT device and key attached to this device is stored in the blockchain. You mentioned as well that doesn't make sense to keep and store all of data from IoT. Doesn't make sense. We met this obstacle. What is the accurate number of data we should store? Because on the other hand, we are creating huge database, and the blockchain will be slow if you're going to have thousands, millions of transactions. We will just crash the system. That's I can only agree with you, Alessio.
Okay. And another way, while you were talking, I was thinking about another example, is that, as I said, at nChain, we are trying to help companies to move from Web 2 to Web 3. I know I'm saying a lot of buzzwords, but I'm a researcher, so I'm allowed to to say a lot of buzzwords. But so what I mean is that now when you have an IoT device, it could be a camera on your, I don't know, for your smart home or a smartwatch. All these data go through a third-party server. It could be Fitbit or Nike if you're using a smartwatch. It could be the provider of the camera or the sensor you have in your home. So the data are stored there, or even if you want to communicate with them, if you want to look at your flat, at the camera in your flat, all the communication goes through a third-party server, right? So from your smartphone, you connect a third party, you don't know where it is, and then it goes to your IoT device, your camera, recording what's happening in, I don't know, in your living room. And this is a real concern in terms of privacy and security, because if the third party is hacked, people can have access to your personal data, can look what's happening in your living room, can look at your data on your smartphone or your smartwatch. Those are a lot of problems, and moving to this Web3 paradigm where you remove the third party, but you have the communication peer-to-peer between the camera and the smartphone using IPv6, and then the blockchain as the source of truth, as the system that you use to record information, prove the identity of your IoT devices. This improves a lot the security because you remove this third party that is potentially a vulnerability.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Oura rings. This ring measures everything going on in my body, and my phone's like, oh, should we connect to your other apps and this and that? And I'm like, oh, I don't. It's going to be held against me when I like apply for health insurance or something.
Yeah,
you never know. It's super important.
But if you are in control of that, you can store the data on the blockchain. Because if you need to prove something in the future, you can. But you can keep them private. But maybe you can decide to share maybe those data aggregated to research institutions because you want to have them, or you don't want to share them with your health provider or health insurance.
Yeah.
Because you don't want, right? So it gives you
as well your ring could measure how how big is your love with your partner, for instance, and this information should be stored in blockchain. Rest you can just erase.
Be careful what you put on chain, because
how deep is your love? How deep is your love? There is as well a song. Yes? How deep is your love?
That's great. That's a main takeaway from this roundtable. But in all seriousness, we're about halfway through the roundtable. We do have some questions that I wanted to have answered. So we will start with it is Mark Branston's question. What are some of the most innovative or exciting use cases for the combining of IoT and blockchain technologies? So who would like to tackle this one? Stephan, you are nodding. So I'm going to ask you to start.
So we talked about independent. Now, I forgot the word. But by combining blockchain and IoT and IPv6, and we can have this economic incentive in buying and selling information, that can do very interesting thing with that we can have IoT devices that are self-sovereign more or less, and that, for example, they can make their own money. They can sell their own information to whoever is willing to pay for that information. So if I have a temperature sensor in a machine or in my home or in my garage, I could let that be open to everybody, to whoever wants to have that information. They could now just ask the device and say, I want the temperature for the last hour. And then the device answer back, yeah, you can have it, but it will cost you 50 cents. And then I can pay directly to that device, and maybe the device will pay a small dividend to me as an owner, but it could keep some money for itself, for example, to be recharged or to be serviced or something like that. So that's a very interesting concept that we are thinking about in supply chains, that to have self-sovereign IoT devices. So I'm working with a company now who has this, it looks like an ice hockey puck, which is made out of recycled sea plastics. And it could actually be a self-independent puck going around in the supply chain. And when it needs service, it could say, hello, I need service. Can someone bring me to a service center to be charged or serviced? And it could pay for that itself. So we get this independent life of an IoT device. And I think that's brings very, very interesting business ideas and new concepts that can be done.
Brilliant. Anybody?
If you want,
Sebastian,
I can
please.
share as well. If you want, of course, I can share as well some already Stephan said. However, I'm thinking about the service, Becky, you know, how deep is her love? You can check for 5 cents. In a 1 week period, you can just make this kind of payment, weekly payment to check how deep is her love. Okay, but the service I really like, which combines, in fact, IoT and blockchain, there are all of services which are engaging city authorities and inhabitants. The cases I know very well from Poland, there are, if for instance, currently as well, we are developing the project Blockchain City in Mińsk Mazowiecki, nearby Warsaw, that we are testing and we are playing with different services. At least 3 are from IoT and blockchain. And for instance, when you have waste management system, and you can just put those data to the blockchain and make this open, let's call it database, but it's not open data. However, this open place that everybody can check that this truck pick up the garbage or not, how often, you know, etc. You can as well add some other, you know, parameters like, for example, the temperature, as Stephan mentioned, etc. You are creating that city database that everybody can have access to it. That is the one case. On the other hand, every service which is connected with invoice, it means that water consumption, energy consumption, gas consumption, heat, etc. If you're gonna put those data to the blockchain and attach to those data some sensors that are gonna measure online what is the consumption of the, you know, of the water, gas, and energy, and based on that you are creating whole billings that people can access it and just play with it. It means that you are creating completely new level of services for cities and for inhabitants, of course.
Very, very cool. And for the sake of time, guys, I'm going to keep moving with questions because we do have a few of them lined up here. The next one is from Ray Little Apps. What are the challenges of implementing blockchain technology in IoT networks, and how can they be overcome? And Alessio, since we haven't heard from you in a bit, I'll have you start with this one, please.
Well, I would say the opposite. How can we integrate IoT in blockchain networks? And there are some challenges. As I said earlier, one of those is privacy and security. Like the confidentiality of data has to be taken into account seriously. You always have to think in advance what you want to store on chain. Because when you store something on chain, it's there, it's forever, it's transparent. So you have to think about the best cryptographic techniques to basically to interact with the blockchain when you store data. The second aspect, as we discussed earlier, blockchain allows for payments between IoT devices. And this is another challenge. This is something that we enable that is not possible without blockchain. But again, there are a lot of challenges because you need secure wallets. You need a blockchain that is able to process this amount of data, transactions with low fees. So you cannot just simply choose a random blockchain. And then you have to make sure you have the certificates and the identity of the devices. So this is very important when you design a new system. Make sure that you know who you're talking to, and because you will receive a lot of attacks from hackers, from people trying to cheat. So security is the most important aspect, and all the things I said, I think they are very important, and those are paramount when we have to discuss IoT devices.
Very good. Anyone else want to add?
I see as well one obstacle, probably the biggest now. There is this specific fear against a blockchain, because blockchain in many cases is connected with crypto. And the problem is that you should be aware that there are many different top class softwares, device management software, as well. Orange owns one, Live Objects, that you can manage all of devices. And probably you will, mitigate all of problems, because you will have one platform to manage all devices, whether it will be city, country, or even globe. You can manage it, but of course, there are some problems to create this openness because the platform is managed by the one operator or one, that is only one node. That's what I think it's important, just to create this kind of awareness and trust that blockchain, it is not only crypto. There are some bad sides and good sides. Let's focus on those good sides and recreate this area from time to time, even from the scratch, because this combination, as we mentioned, really makes sense, and it will be many benefits for us, for businesses, and for the cities.
I mean, yeah, that's why we are here. We want to promote blockchain as a technology that helps to achieve those results and not as a form of speculation. But I wanted to add also in terms of challenges, because now I discussed the technical challenges from a research point of view, but there are other challenges, and I'm thinking about, you have devices that if they want to interact with the blockchain, they need computational power, they need a battery. So, I mean, those are challenges that, I mean, people like Sebastian need to tackle to figure out which is the best way for an IoT device to, I mean, save battery and maybe interact once per hour or even per day with the blockchain and create some digital signatures. We can help because we try to design protocols that allow minimal interaction or have pre-computed signatures so that we save energy. But of course, this is a challenge when we want to discuss IoT devices. I mean, portability and like trying to save energy and be as efficient as possible is another interesting challenge.
That's why those device management exists, because through blockchain, it's extremely hard to manage it. Through this IoT infrastructure, including device management and some dedicated protocols, like Light M2M protocol, MQTT protocols, and others, you have this possibility to manage those devices remotely. That's as we discussed, Alessio, that on the one hand, you can manage and enhance transactions and this best source of truth. And on the other hand, you have best solution to manage devices, batteries, as well parameters of the network, which you can meet when your sensor meets around where it's stayed.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to move on to another question. I think we already touched on smart contracts within the context of IoT devices, I do believe. But Stephan, if I could just have you tackle Eric Belinsky's question, which is about smart contracts and how they can improve the automation and data exchange when it comes to IoT devices, that would be fabulous.
Yeah. First, I would like to comment on the name smart contracts. There is so many misunderstanding, and so they are not smart and they are not contracts. It's simple as script. It's a payment script, as I will call it. And yes, you can of course use this for automation and for business logic or just logic to be executed in a blockchain when certain parameters are satisfied, and it's very, very useful as well. But there is a big hype about that smart contracts is doing everything, but there is a lot of business logic that maybe are not in the smart contracts, but actually still are in the business system that is running on top of the blockchain system. But it can be used to make a lot of interesting things. Like the simplest example is when a package is delivered, the logistic company can then send out a signal as an oracle to the blockchain network, and then any company who has a smart contract listening to that can then make the payment or change some parameters in the systems. So it's very useful at the same time.
Very good. Very good. There's one area I wanted to touch on before we finish with the questions, because I think it's important. And we already brought it up in the beginning, micropayments and economic incentives when it comes to IoT. But I wanted to talk a bit more about micropayments and how does this fit into IoT, and why is the blockchain that we're using so incredibly important in order to enable micropayments like this? I mean, why do people really need to pay attention to which blockchain that they're using? So I will start with you on this one, Alessio.
Yeah, so I think I touched a bit on that, but just to expand on micropayments, as I said, now IoT devices cannot send payments, cannot receive payments. So when we use blockchain, we enable these new aspects of IoT devices where you can send and receive payments. You can send and receive micropayments, nano payments. So you can pay for a fraction of dollar for a piece of information. So if you have an IoT device, you can install it in a place where millions of people maybe need some information. Everyone pays a cent of a cent, so it's nothing for you. But for the company providing those IoT devices, it's a new business model. Like, you can create a company that offers those services based on micropayments. And of course, to do that, you need a blockchain like BSV that allows for micropayments. It's very convenient, it's cheap, it's fast. And this is like a technique for creating new business cases from the business point of view. From the technical point of view, I think, as I said, blockchain and IoT, they are a perfect match, a natural match, because they allow to prove the identity of the devices. And so this allows you to exchange payment in a secure way. That's the basics, I think.
Yes, yeah, I'm going to become a millionaire by selling this data. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Sorry for that, yeah. but Becky, this service probably will be priceless for your partner, you know. Yeah. However, but in addition, what Alessio said, I think that this micropayments, when you can really create the fair system, you can imagine that people, if they will expose some data they are currently collecting, and the model will be fair, it means that it's not aggregator will earn money on it. However, the model will the small piece of the dollar will go directly to the owner of the sensor, and blockchain allows to provide this kind of fair transaction model. It means that it is really big revolution on this market, because normally when you have the provider, or for instance, Stephan, your case with this temperature, with the air pollution sensor, etc. Now you have the vendor with some solution. This vendors of the solution is selling it to the city or to, I don't know, private company. The company is exposing the sensor, getting a data. Finally, only 2, maybe 3 guys can earn on it. In the micropayments, and when you are buying the sensor, you are exposing data, like with the miners. That's exactly Bitcoin case, and everybody can get some piece of the money. We are creating fair big scale for some billionaires probably in the moment.
That I have to comment on that, talking about supply chain and data collection. Yes. So that's one thing that we are working on to what we call gamifying data collection. So a big problem with most supply chain blockchain systems today is that they are only made for the biggest companies like Walmart, Coca-Cola, and so on, and for big ERP systems like SAP and Oracle. But by using the BSV blockchain that we are using, that is very, very scalable and very cost efficient, that allow us to actually involve the small actors in the edge of a supply chain. And by that I mean like a small fisherman, a small farmer, or someone working in the field creating and growing products. They can now be incentivized to collect data about the area where they are. Just simple data like what's the weather, what's the temperature, how much is it raining, what's the quality of the earth, and get paid for that by a microtransaction or a nano transaction. So it becomes like a a game like this Pokemon game, but instead of just searching for Pokemons, you are searching for data points that have value, and by entering that into the system, you cannot monetize that and sell that information directly to insurance companies or investing companies or any other actors in the supply chain that needs this data in a massive volume. And of course, we could do that also with IoT devices, that you can now incentivize a small farmer to invest in a number of IoT devices because he can now make money on this information that he creates.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Thank you guys so much. And I'm going to go back to taking some questions because we are about 9 minutes until we need to wrap. This is an interesting question and a new topic from Allison Richardson. What role do you see the government and regulatory bodies playing in shaping the future of IoT and blockchain? And Sebastian, that smile is huge. Please start with this one.
And it is as always because there are many different stages that we can discuss about exactly this question, because for sure government from time to time is needed just to even regulate something, not to create a mess. Unfortunately, humanity created a lot of different problems because of in some cases, because of the so big democracy. Sorry for saying that. However, from time to time, it's good to regulate something, because if there are rules which are the same for everybody, and somebody is looking after that, probably we have the common ground to create something. However, in this particular case, when blockchain in general is struggling with big giants, hyperscalers, big brands, etc., I don't know what is the best, to regulate it or just leave it and let people to create and innovate with the blockchain. Because now the situation is different than 5 years ago, or not even 20 years ago, Now, like Twitter is managed by the one guy, There are much more cases that some individuals are controlling the probably part of the world, That's why I don't know whether this guy is controlling this government or the government is controlling this guy. It means that I don't know what's going to be if those two sides are agree common strategy, how they will regulate. That's why, honestly speaking, my answer is I don't know. For this long, introduction, however, I don't know.
My view as an entrepreneur is that please, government, stay away. Do as little as possible. Enable us as much as possible. And one important thing to understand about blockchain, that there is a lot of misunderstanding specifically on the crypto side. But the blockchain was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, and it was actually created as a system that was completely legal compliant with all international laws. So we already have all the laws that are needed to run blockchain and to use blockchains. We don't need any new laws for that. The whole crypto industry is trying to get in new laws and trying to change everything, but that's just because they think they have found a new way of making money or fooling people. But actually, we already have all the laws that is needed for that part. And for us using blockchain in enterprise applications and blockchain and IoT here, there is no need for any extra regulation and so on. We already have financial laws, we have privacy laws, we have the GDPR and all of these kind of things, and that can all be. We can all implement blockchain according to these already laws that we already have.
Very good. Go. Real quick, though.
It is. Sorry, Alessio, because I think that my statement was quite clear that sometimes to time is good to have something regulated, and there is the exactly knowledge from the telecom industry. We can use smartphone and cross different borders without any problems. And all of networks are able to connect because of this area is regulated. And some interconnection points, some rules are the same for everybody. If you are running new switch, this switch should fulfill all of past regulations, around interfaces, about right protocols. However, there is the telecommunication knowledge, which is not perfectly suited probably for blockchain. That's why completely two different examples, yes?
At the end of the day, is our job as well. So that's what we do at nChain. We try to write academic papers. We attend conference with regulators, because it's our job to explain why blockchain can help GDPR, can help security, to explain that it's not just a way to invest in something and hope to get rich soon. It's our job. So we need to promote it, to discuss, to explain to people, spend time, show that it's secure, and I think that they'll get it eventually.
Yeah, Bitcoin was designed to work within the law. Love it. Thank you guys so much. And so I'm going to move on to another question, just a few minutes left. I'm going to move to Carl Wickert's question about the improvements and the efficiency improvements when you compare blockchain-based storage with cloud storage for IoT systems. Stephan, again, you're nodding, so I'll have you tackle that one, if you don't mind.
Yes, it's a really good question and really interesting one as well, because that's what we see now in the BSV blockchain, is that it is possible to store a lot of data and a lot of transactions. So we can today store up to 4 gigabytes in each transaction, and we can have many transactions. And we are handling hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, which means a lot of data. And today, it's still more expensive to store data on chain today. But if we just follow the cost curve that we have seen, that with this scalability and the price, the economy of scale that we see in the BSV blockchain, is that the more we use it, the cheaper it gets. If we just follow that and extrapolate that a couple of years ahead in time, then we can see that the cost of storing a lot of information on the blockchain will actually be cheaper on the blockchain than on any like Amazon or any other cloud service that today. So I see a very bright future and a very interesting future when blockchain actually starts competing on price with the big cloud providers, because they can already not today compete in security and integrity. Blockchain outcompete any other system, or the BSV blockchain outcompete any other system already today. We just have the cost left, but that's just a matter of use of the system and how much time to get more company to use it.
Stephan, I think as well that the cost will be connected with the format of the data that you want to store. Because if you're going to store the streaming or video, I don't know what is better, source of that the blockchain is the best just to store streaming of video, as a data.
Competitors. It's not a competition between cloud storage and blockchain storage. Sometimes it's fine to have cloud storage. I imagine we can still have some of our data on cloud storage. But maybe I don't trust you guys. So we can store our IT data in a cloud storage, but you can change them or you can delete them. When there is a proof of the data on chain, those data is much more valuable, and I trust the data much more. If you can prove how this data was collected, which device recorded, and you can prove using the blockchain that they were not tampered with. This is like, it's an improvement of the cloud base. It's not a replacement.
I think that as you mentioned, the case will rule, It means that case will manage cost and potential usability of this use case, which as well drive the business. It is rather that some general answer probably don't exist, yeah?
But one important thing to think about here is that today all systems have we have different data silos in different companies and different clouds, and you have backup of this information. So a lot of information today in a supply chain, let's say, or any systems, we have them in at least 4 or 5 or 6 different copies of the same data. And by using blockchain as one universal source of truth, we can have just one piece of data that everybody can trust and everybody know is the correct data. So that's another thing to think about as well. But I agree with Alessio that today and a number of years ahead, blockchain and cloud will coexist and work together very good.
Amazing. Thanks for holding down the fort, guys, while I disappeared for a second. But that is our time, guys. And I wanted to encourage anyone in the audience that didn't get their questions answered to please, you could reach out to me and then I'll get the answers from our panelists for you, or to contact them directly through Twitter or through some other fabulous medium. I'm sure you can find them. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, first of all, to the guests. You guys are amazing. I love spending time with you. It's so much fun. And thank you so much to the audience. I really loved all the questions. And thank you so much for making the time to join us live. Really special and a great topic, and exciting times ahead, that is for sure. Thank you very much. And don't forget to subscribe, guys, to the CoinGeek channel so you do not miss our next roundtable or anything juicy coming from CoinGeek. And we'll see you guys next time.
Industry-shifting ideas can start from individuals or people committed to solving global and industry issues. This is your chance to network with experts and connect with a future collaborator at the London Blockchain Conference. Throughout history, significant innovations have resulted from successful collaborations. In 1903, brothers Orville and Wilbur Wright made it possible for us to achieve our dream of flying. In 1977, Steve Jobs' marketing flair and Steve Wozniak's engineering magic helped jumpstart the personal computer revolution. In 1990, Tim Berners-Lee worked with systems engineer Robert Cailliau to pave the way for the World Wide Web. The world would look very different without the innovations of these incredible collaborations. Come to the London Blockchain Conference, where visionaries like yourself convene and create value partnerships that could lead to future collaboration and the next world-changing solution.
Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, MetaNet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Bitcoin 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.